Welcome everyone to the Best Damn Podcast. I'm your host, John Keane. As always, I would like to thank you guys for joining me. Ask that you please add, follow, check us out. Facebook, Instagram, Best Damn Podcast, Twitter, The Real Best Damn. Wherever you're watching from, make sure to hit the like, give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, let me know what you think, and share this link. Help me to get it out there. That way new people can find me. If you'd like to donate support, check the links in the description box down below. If you'd like to book a personal tarot reading, same goes for that as well. And I did see a couple of complaints before we got the show started. Sorry for the delay. I did have to push this one back a little bit tonight, so I do apologize for any delay for those of you guys that were waiting, but we're here now, right? And we're going to be talking about the ends justifying the means tonight, because I feel like that's kind of the position we find ourselves in, where almost anything in our society can be justified, based on this desired outcome. We see an agenda for our entire world that only continues to get crazier and crazier as each day goes on. It almost seems like something out of a fucking science fiction novel at this point, like to see us being slow walked into this place where we have absolutely no privacy. All of our human rights, our individual rights, have basically been stripped, or damn near. And we even see this like programming, to where it's like there doesn't look like there's much hope, for a lot of people when they look at our society, when they look at the structure of our government, of our system as a whole. There's not a lot to be happy about. I know a lot of people really want change, and that's probably what has attracted a lot of you to content like this and other stuff. It's like this desire for change. It's like we want something different. We don't know exactly how we're going to get it, but we know that what we have currently is not working. And awareness is a crazy thing. When you look at like the war on information and censorship and all of the things that are taking place right now, it's really obvious why it's so important to get you to feel powerless in your everyday life. It's so obvious why it's so important to dumb down the masses the way that they have. That way, it's to the point now to where we have no dependence on ourselves and our own critical thinking and the ability to use our own skills to determine, what's real and what's fake and, what's true and what's not, what's right and what's wrong. We're pointed in this direction or that, pointed to this expert or that expert to tell us, whether or not something is safe, whether or not something is right. And this is how the system works, right? This is how the system works. It's getting you to give away pieces of your sovereignty bit by bit, Your spiritual sovereignty goes to the religious system. The way that you see the legalities of the world and your individual rights goes to the legal system, And so on and so forth. And now it's to the point to where public opinion dominates basically all of our morality and what we're willing to do. It's like people will self-censor now just because they don't, want the lynch mob coming after them, online for saying the wrong thing or believing the wrong thing. When we see like society at this point of like degradation, the way that it is now, I feel like that's why it's so important for each and every one of us to really tap into ourselves and our own powers and really understand that it boils down to us being able to discern, what's good for us being able to discern what's right for us and not go off of, popular opinion or what the masses are pushing. Because I can guarantee you, the more that we look into the media, the more that the mainstream continues to push it down our neck, the more you're going to find yourself in confusion, the more you're going to find yourself being divided, not only amongst yourself, but against, your fellow human being. So tonight we're gonna look at, some articles, some things that are going on. We've had quite a bit of interesting stuff. The 70,000 that were trapped in Burning Man, which is a big giant fucking ritual. All of these at this point to me are, it's crisis acting. It's, every time that we run into one of these scenarios, that's ultimately what it boils down to. This is made for TV crisis, to where they can integrate some new fucking law or impose some new rule on the people, or discourage people from doing some type of action, We now know that they've got the next rollout of COVID and new variants, and this is going to push us into a whole nother level of an agenda we've already probably had too much of. A lot of people already have a fucking sour taste in their mouth after the last few years and what's taking place with all of that, but some people, they really just don't get enough, do they? They're all too excited to talk about the masks, and they're all too excited to talk about the jabs, and it's like, on what thing we need to fear next. And that's what drives a lot of this, and that's like the best method of control is fear. And they know that if you have the knowledge, and you've armed yourself with knowledge, and you've empowered yourself, that fear will no longer control you. It'll no longer push you to make choices and decisions. You'll make them from a place of stability within yourself. You'll have a firm foundation within yourself. You won't be able to be swayed just because, they bring up something that might harm you or might get you sick or, sensationalize all these different things on television. We're going to go ahead and jump into this. I want to thank all of you guys for joining me. I see Kimberly F. in the house. Thank you so much. You're the best moderator ever, by the way. Gwendolyn Morales, Ginger Grimm, Silver Cart, thank you. I appreciate all of you guys. Rhonda Marlowe. If you guys haven't checked out the tarot readings, check those out. I have posted some of the monthlies for September, and I haven't got them all out yet, but I posted like the first 4 or whatever today. If you guys are into that, check that out. And like I said, man, we got all types of cool content on this channel, so donate, support. You can join us over on Patreon for the private content. I did get all that updated for those of you guys that was asking. Let's go ahead and jump into this. It's never a dull day. It's never a dull day, and I do apologize for the delay, like I said. So, and we're gonna be looking at AI and fucking robots and all types of weird shit tonight. So it's a pretty mixed bag. The Bidenomics, the newlyweds in San Francisco looking for a nice 1-bedroom, 0-bath starter tent. And this is pretty much accurate, right? And this is making the joke of like inflation and like where things are at right now as far as economics go. Like a lot of us are paycheck to paycheck as it is, and the state that we find ourselves in now, it's like, this is becoming a real reality. And anybody that ever, if you live in a city of any kind, then you already know, like, there is a real deal problem when it comes to, like, the homeless population. I once heard a statistic somewhere that basically said that there is more empty houses in the United States than there are homeless people, which just kind of shows you how fucked up things are in our world and how, how our priorities really are. Like most people, they're not seeking to help their fellow man in any way, shape, or form. It's really to, line their pockets and get richer. And, that's ultimately what the American dream has been about, and I guess will continue to be about. We have scientists growing animals in artificial wombs, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. It takes 9 months for a fertilized egg to develop into roughly a 7-pound baby, and during that time, the person carrying the baby gets to feel the miracle of life growing inside of them. They can expect to experience a slew of unpleasant side effects from nausea and vomiting to breathing difficulties and back pain. That's during a normal pregnancy. In the U.S., about 8% of them include complications that threaten the health of the baby carrier or the fetus. Childbirth, meanwhile, is painful at best and fatal at worst. Even when a pregnancy and birth is uncomplicated, the person who carried the baby is often left with lifelong changes in their physical and mental health. But what if technology could eliminate the need for anyone to go through pregnancy and childbirth to have a baby? And this fucking reminds me of like Superman. You guys remember Superman, how like nobody had babies, they were just like grown and shit? Just saying. Artificial wombs. While a typical healthy pregnancy ends around 40 weeks, babies born just after 21 weeks in the womb have survived thanks to incubators, devices that keep prematurely born babies warm and safe until their bodies are developed enough to live outside the hospital's neonatal intensive care unit. At the other end, in the beginning, embryos for in vitro fertilization are typically grown in the lab for a few days before implantation. Researchers have even grown embryos outside the body for up to 2 weeks, and they could probably go longer. Some scientists think we could take this as a major step further, creating fully artificial wombs that provide the ideal environment from conception through gestation, eliminating the need to actually carry a baby inside the body. And this, to me, we're going to talk about a lot of technology tonight. We've got a lot of weird AI shit on this, robots and all kinds of shit. Like, this to me is like taking us to that next step. When we talk about the age of Aquarius, and I've said this a million times, I feel like, and people who's not into the astrology and all that, you can eat a dick, but it's ultimately the Aquarian age is about technology. Not only is it changing our social structure and becoming more about the collective, and that's why you see things shifting in that direction when it comes to like kind of like a collective centered as opposed to the individual. And that's why you see this major shift in the way that society is structured socially. And I'm not attributing this to just the social engineering that the governments and shit, implement on the populations. I'm talking about this is something that would naturally happen, but obviously the powers that be, they use these things for their benefit. But also, it is a transhumanist thing. It's about technology. The Aquarian age is about shifting into a technological age as well. The hypothetical process of developing a fetus outside of the body is known as ectogenesis. And not only would it eliminate the many health risks linked to pregnancy and childbirth, it would also make biological reproduction available to people for whom it's currently difficult or impossible. And think about, every time. Think about, the fact that we're seeing like this culling taking place, and sterility it's up so high, especially in males. I feel like fucking 50% of males are sterile now or some shit like that. It's insane. And how we see this agenda for depopulation like taking place, this would almost, kind of roll out this era to where it would be like all designer babies and only those who could afford, to create these lab-grown kids would be able to have them. A person who lost their uterus to cancer, for example, could have an embryo created in the lab, like in IVF, but implant it in an artificial womb for gestation rather than using a human surrogate, which is an ethically fraught practice. By eliminating the need for surrogacy, artificial wombs could also make it easier for gay couples to have biological children. And if you have conditioned all of the population to essentially gravitate towards same-sex marriage and transgender and all of that, then you're going to need to come up with some solution for reproduction, right? Because nobody's going to be reproducing if the pieces don't fit, if you know what I'm saying. Just saying, just putting that out there. Further on the horizon, if scientists can replicate their success creating embryos from the DNA of same-sex mice and people, Any two people might one day be able to have biological children related to both of them. I swear to God, every time I do a video, I get the fucking yawns. It says, where are we now? Artificial wombs would fill in the critical gap between IVF and incubators. They don't exist yet outside of science fiction, but they're getting closer to reality. In 2017, researchers from the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia unveiled the BioBag, part of an artificial womb. They are developing for prematurely born babies, known as Extend, extra rotating environment for neonatal development. And let's see if you guys have sound here. I'm checking out the BioBag.
I think that most physicians who remember their first encounter in the NICU with a critically low birth weight premature infant, they're fascinatingly resilient. At the same time, they present a real clinical conundrum. Just looking at them, it is immediately clear that they shouldn't be here yet. They're not ready.
The first health challenge the very preterm babies face is actually surviving being born very preterm. Amongst those that survive, the challenges really are some of the things we all take very much for granted: walking, talking, seeing, hearing, and developing along the normal path.
Many of the infants that are born preterm, once they leave the hospital, can be institutionalized. Many of the infants have cerebral palsy.
In the United States, about 1% of all infants are considered significantly premature. And so the frequency of prematurity has increased significantly in the last 2 or 3 decades. So the problem isn't going away.
You know, what's really crazy about this is like, this is how they always spin things like this, when they're like pushing for artificial wombs or pushing for any fucking agenda, just to be honest. Like, they're going to get it through by hitting you right in the fucking feels, you know what I mean? They're showing you a bunch of babies and it's like, who's anti-baby, nobody, but really we know, like, what's underlying of this. Yes, there's good causes for a lot of technology, but also it's because we're being shifted into a direction that there's not going to be the same ability for natural childbirth or the same ability for us to reproduce like we once could. Not only is it an agenda, through, homosexuality and all of that, and I'm not knocking that in any way, shape, or form. People do what they do, but the truth is we are seeing that propagated. Like, if that offends you, I'm sorry, but it's true. That gets force-fed to the masses quite often, matter of fact. I even think I did a video not too long ago where we talked about like the Grammys or some shit like that. Like, and they didn't have like one biracial person, one LGBTQ person or whatever. Like, they couldn't be nominated for an award for the, like the new requirements. It's like, because that's social engineering. It's like conditioning us to behave in certain ways, or to even change, our sexual habits and what we perceive to be healthy and things like that. But not only are we being pushed, with the homosexual agenda onto our children, because they are sexualizing children and all that. That's why we have all the little drag shows and shit, reading books to kids and all of that. You guys are very familiar with all of those things. We have that as well with the trans agenda. So it's like, also they're catching these kids before they even hit puberty, and they're mutilating them. They're making it to where they could never reproduce. And because of this, on top of the GMOs, on top of the graphene that's being plugged into everybody, like, this is causing major fertility problems as well. So it's almost going to be as if the only people that are even have the ability to be fertile enough to conceive or healthy enough to carry, the baby to term, It's going to be few and far between. So this, to me, and it's like you also know with the CRISPR technology and the designer babies, like artificial wounds is like a natural progression. And once again, it puts like, it takes not just your child to the state, which we know, according to Alice Bailey in the 10-point plan of the New World Order, one of the agendas is to have the state raise your children, right? And in essence, that's what we've experienced, and that's why kids go to school at younger and younger ages, and they try to, keep the parents out of shit now as much as possible. And parents are also happy to do it because most of them are sacks of shit now anyways. We now see, like, this could become something where the state, like, fucking farms children. I know that seems kind of, like, far-reaching, just from something like this, an artificial womb. It's like, how can you come up with that, It's like, but if you see, like, or know what the end goal for a lot of this is to take every one of your abilities as a human being away. And that includes the right to reproduce. It includes the right, you know what I mean? And that puts the state or the government in charge of all of these things. So it's like, they're the ones creating these problems, by the way, too. Fertility and all of this, from their chemicals and, things that they're force feeding us with, and the shit and the food. Like, we wouldn't even be having these fucking defects. And the way that we're being socially engineered which is counterintuitive to reproduction in general, which creates disease and all of this. It's like problem, reaction, solution, and, the problem is created. They anticipate the reaction and they have the solution ready, but they're the ones who created the problem to start with. It says, unlike incubators currently found in hospitals, inside NICUs, the biobag is filled with lab-made amniotic fluid, the same liquid that surrounds a baby in the womb. Oxygen is added to the fetal bloodstream via a device attached to the umbilical cord. Fetal lungs are designed to function in fluid, and we simulate the environment here, allowing the lungs and other organs to develop while supplying nutrients and growth factors, said fetal physiologist and Extend developer Marcus G. Davey. To demonstrate the biobag, researchers removed lamb fetuses from their mother's wombs at what would be the equivalent of 23 to 24 weeks in human pregnancy. Most human babies born at 24 weeks or earlier don't survive, and those that do have a high chance of lifelong health problems. And the animals continue developing for up to 4 weeks inside the biobags, getting bigger, growing wool, and opening their eyes. And you can see the image of the lambs right here. And isn't it funny, right? Anyways, members of the Extend team have since founded a startup, Vitera Biomedical, which has raised $100 million from Google Ventures, among others, to further develop the device and support its first clinical trial. And it's like, once again, this is in cahoots with Google. So, there's your technological connection, as if you needed one. Just kind of showing you this is the direction that we're going, and we're going in this direction on many fronts, many fronts. Matter of fact, Chinese scientists have created companion robots. So, like I said, technology. This is the Aquarian Age. This is what it's truly about. World Robot Conference in Beijing. Robots with human-like skin, facial expressions, and physical movement show off mimicking skills. They're able to interact with humans by generating corresponding facial expressions. Chinese developers want the robots to be able to provide emotional support, mirroring the role of a friend or a family member.
其实现在很多年轻人也很孤独，然后大家这个在
very lonely now. Many people probably don't have many friends, and they have no family or partner.
这个进入到社会中之后，可能很多人也没有太多的朋友，然后也没有家人的陪伴，也缺少伴侣。那么将来这种情感陪伴，甚至是
demands for this kind of emotional companionship and even partner robots in the future.
伴侣机器人也是一个市场需求。那么老年人的需求就更直接，就是我们现在。
And for the elderly, there are not too many young people now, and many of them are away from home, and it's difficult for them to accompany the elderly.
现在年轻人确实少，然后很多年轻人离开家，然后也很难陪伴在老人身边，所以陪伴老人的这个需求是我们现在为什么总在提说老人陪护的机器人。
Why are we always talking about companion robots for the elderly? It's because there's an obvious and direct demand. And once again, like I said, they always paint up whatever the agenda is. Like, oh, you don't want old people to be happy? You know, you don't want old people to have somebody to hang out with?
这是因为这个需求它很明显、很直接。
对，要名片交换完了以后呢。That's pretty wild. Imagine like companion robots and shit like that. I mean, we've already had people that have literally married, you know, AI over in China. So I feel like they're definitely paving the way for all of that. But it's like, think about it. If you have a population that, literally, you know, they can't reproduce anyways. They can't do any of this shit anyways. They're not like humans anyways. Then what's the harm, right? In having a robot companion. And I feel like sex robots and things like that will probably be like a real deal reality. Like matter of fact, I would be willing to bet that would become a real deal reality, you know, and you could probably even see like that being advertised as like something like safer than, you know, prostitution and things like that. And I would have to say that a lot of people now, because we're like so socially awkward, you know, like as a whole, I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of people, you know, gravitate more towards something like that. There's a lot of people I know that spend more time with their computer than they do with people by far. And if you think about the time that a lot of people spend with their phones, you know, then we're really getting into it. You know, it's like human interaction is becoming less and less, and human connection is becoming less and less. And because of that, we see ourselves, we're struggling with it, you know, as a whole. That's why, like, divorce rates are so high. That's why, you know, people have fucking 10 times the sexual partners that they used to, you know, in a lifetime. Or that's why relationships as a whole struggle like they do, you know. It's because we haven't learned the people skills, you know, or we don't value human connection the way that we once did. You know, it's everything has become so easy. It's like this, you know, the fast food generation. It's like even love. And imagine if you can give somebody a robot that will do anything you say, and probably do it better than the human being, right? Robots, I'm almost certain they don't get tired. You know, they don't have bad days. They never have shitty attitudes, right? Like, so you can imagine how this could really, really become a thing, you know, especially for, you know, people that are, like, socially awkward, or, you know, there's some people that, that would prefer, you know, would prefer things over human interaction as is now. So imagine if it was totally available for them to have a partner that was a robot. That's all I'm going to say about that. So, pretty crazy, man. Pretty crazy. And it's like, I feel like we're really headed in that direction, you know. And it's like a lot of people don't believe that we, you know, like that we're as close as we are, but we really are. We're like on the cusp of that, you know, like what we call like the future and sci-fi and all of that. It's like we're living that now. We're watching that unfold now. And AI is going to revolutionize the way that our entire world, is. It already has in so many ways, but I feel like we're just at the cusp of all of that. We're really about to see society change in a major, major way, and it's going to have a lot to do with, robots and technology and artificial intelligence, and we see there is like this push for it, and there's not really anything slowing it down. So how is this going to change us on a fundamental level? I feel like it already has. Like I said, we're already more socially awkward. We already don't value human companionship, human connection like we once did. But I only see that getting worse, and I only see things progressing in this direction. It's getting bad when CNN is calling Fauci out. Dr. Fauci responds to a study that says masks didn't work. And I'm so fucking sick of hearing this, but hey.
There's an uptick in COVID cases and a new variant called BA.286, some 3.5 years since the pandemic was first identified. But if public health officials feel it necessary to ask America to mask up again, how many would comply? The Drudge Report led its website this morning with the headline, "Not Again, Mask Up in New York." Lead story at CBS News this morning, COVID hospitalizations on the rise as U.S. enters Labor Day weekend. The past several weeks have seen reports from all over the country of a rise in cases, and yes, the CDC reports COVID-19 hospital admissions are up more than 19% in the most recent week. In a few school districts, this has even led to canceled classes and sporting events. A handful of companies and schools have responded to outbreaks on their premises by reinstating mask mandates. Among them, several hospital systems, including Kaiser Permanente in Northern California, Morris Brown College in Atlanta, Dillard University in Louisiana, Lionsgate Film Studio in Santa Monica. But so far, those have been the few exceptions. And this graph shows how the current rise in hospitalizations compares to past surges, less than half the numbers this time last year and still lower than they've been for about 80% of the pandemic. But if things get worse, it may be hard to get people to revert to an abundance of caution. According to Gallup, in the first 2 years, public confidence in the U.S. healthcare system has dropped from 44% to 34%. And Donald Trump took to Truth Social to again make the issue political, accusing the latest outbreak to be hype designed to impact the 2024 election.
But to every COVID tyrant who wants to take away our freedom, hear these words: we will not comply. So don't even think about it. We will not shut down our schools. We will not accept your lockdowns. We will not abide by your mask mandates. And we will not tolerate your vaccine mandates.
Joining me now to discuss.
He said, don't even think about it. We will not comply. You gotta love Trump, stirring up the pot here. Mississippi recently publicly said that the state will not adhere to another mask mandate. Well, how about that? I'm glad about that. I don't see none of the shit here in Cincinnati. Not yet. But I don't have a lot of faith in the fucktards around here. Just being all the way real with you, these motherfuckers in this area are straight up idiots, so I imagine they'll just go along with whatever they're told. That is really wild, though. It's like even crazy that... Does it not blow your fucking mind that they're even trying to do this again? It's like fucking... We're just now hitting September, and they're like, hey, we're about to get close to fall, close to winter. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to go ahead and gas you up and get you ready before it ever even comes. It's so wild. I can't... For the life of me, I can't fathom how people still go along with this, and you can guarantee there's going to be a million idiots lined up to go get their next fucking round of the nonsense, and they'll be shaming you for not doing it too, because that's what idiots do, so.
This is Dr. Anthony Fauci. He, of course, is the former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Dr. Fauci, nice to have you back. How worried are you that people will not follow advice to wear masks if we get to that?
Well, Michael, that's a very good question. As you said, if we get to that, I mean, we're starting to see a surge of cases, as you mentioned, about an 18 or 19% increase in hospitalizations. certainly going in the wrong direction with looks like a late summer and into the fall surge. How bad it's going to get, we don't know. As you know, this is a very unpredictable virus, has shown us that over the last 3.5 years. I am concerned that people will not abide by recommendations. And we're not talking about mandates or forcing anybody, but when you have a situation where the volume of cases in society gets to a reasonably high level, particularly the vulnerable, those who are elderly and those with underlying conditions, are going to be more susceptible and vulnerable.
You guys have all heard it before, but I mean, I don't know. This is just fucking mind-blowing. But you can already see where the agenda is going. They're prepping you for it, guys. This is the end of the summer. You even heard him. Like, we're getting prepared into the summer, going into fall. This is already going to let you know what type of winter you're going to have, what the agenda is for this winter. And I can guarantee there's people that miss the mask. They miss the mandates. They miss the lockdowns. And I know that sounds nuts to some of you to even like fathom that that's true, but it is, you know. And I think we're gonna see them try to push this, you know, at least one more time. And in the winter, I don't know if they're gonna go as far as mandates again, but I feel like I would hope that people would not, you know, be as gullible as they've been in the past, but you know, I'll be honest with you too, I don't have that much fucking hope when it comes to the population. You know, if we've seen anything, we've seen that, you know, people will fall for just about anything. You know, if it's on the television, then it's true, right? And it's like, this is what I mean, like when we're giving our sovereignty away, it's like, what's good for our own health, we no longer get to decide what's good for ourselves, right? If a doctor says it, you don't even have to be our doctor, just any doctor. Well, then that's true. It has to be, right? No matter what your belief on it is, no matter what your research says, it's null and void. We had a scientist or a doctor say, so everybody better do that. You know, same thing when it comes to like religion and spiritual shit. It's like, oh, well, a pastor or a priest or whatever, you know, said this is how it is, so that's how it is. And it's like, this is how you get, you know, like, you know, all these sheep that just conform to everything they're told. They're going to fall in line with this. They always have. They always will. And sadly, it's like a part of me, and I know it's like a Dr. Evil part of me, but it's like, it's almost like if these people are that gullible and that stupid, you know, to continue to fall for this shit, it's like, well then, do we really need them in the population anyways? You know what I mean? Like, and I know that sounds terrible, but it's like, if we're going to thin out the herd, isn't it best we thin out the dummies first, you know? And I feel like that's probably how these people see it. It's like, if you're that fucking stupid, then, you know, you get what you get, you know? And I hate to even sound like that, but, you know, it's to the point to where, like, think about it, like, as a whole, like, the shit that we're all being forced to and subjugated to because of, like, you know, a bunch of dumbasses that want to conform to everything they're told or want to virtue signal over every little issue or cancel everyone that doesn't agree with them. It's like, you know, like, when is enough? And it's like, when do we stop trying to stop these people from damaging themselves and just let them do what they want to do, because they're going to anyways, you know, and allow natural selection to take place, you know? It's like, if they're going to take the population under 500 million, I would be fucking surprised if we even had 500 million people that were able to think for themselves, first off. But if we do, you know, I would much rather it be a population of people that, you know, actually know how to make their own decisions and know how to critically think and weren't gullible enough to fall for every fucking agenda that came out and weren't socially engineered to the point that they weren't recognizable as human beings, you know. So, just saying. Like, if they're going to do it, you might as well let them do it like that. Yeah, it is a fucking clown world. That's what it is. fertility festival in Japan. It just gets better and better. Moving on. We have, last time they did this was during the COVID pandemic. What are they preparing again? FEMA to blast all smartphones, TVs, and radios with mass alert tests on October the 4th, 2023. And I feel like the first time that this happened was actually when Trump was in office. And it was like in October then too, back in like 2017. So, here it is. Hold on. I've got the... right here. FEMA to blast all smartphones, TVs, radios with mass alert tests on October 4th. On Wednesday, October the 4th at 2:20 p.m. Eastern Time, every TV, radio, and cell phone in the United States should blare out the distinctive, jarring electronic warning tone of an emergency alert, accompanied by a notice along these lines. This is a nationwide test of the emergency alert system issued by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, covering the United States from 1420 to 1450 hours Eastern Time. This is only a test. No action is required by the public. This is a nationwide test of the emergency alert system issued by the Federal Emergency Management Agency. No action required by the public. FEMA's last test occurred in 2021 during the COVID pandemic. At the time, the emergency agency sent test alerts nationwide, causing all phones, televisions, and radios to blast an annoying sound. And it's crazy. And let me see, it's right here's the actual thing. The FEMA and FCC plan for the nationwide emergency alert test for October 4th, 2023. And it says, in coordination with the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC will conduct a nationwide test of the emergency alert system and wireless emergency alerts this fall. The national test will consist of two portions testing the WEA and the EAS capabilities. Both tests are scheduled to begin at approximately 2:20 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday, October the 4th. The WEA portion of the test will be directed to all consumer cell phones. This will be the third nationwide test, but the second test to all cellular devices. The test message will display in either English or in Spanish, depending on the language settings of the wireless handset. The EAS portion of the test will be sent to radios and televisions. This will be the seventh nationwide EAS test. FEMA and the FCC are coordinating with the EAS participants, wireless providers, emergency managers, and other stakeholders in preparation for this national test to minimize confusion and to maximize the public safety value of the test. The purpose of the October 4th test is to ensure that the systems continue to be effective means of warning the public about emergencies, particularly those on the national level. In the case of the October 4th test is postponed due to widespread severe weather or other significant events. The backup testing date is October the 11th. So if you guys want to check that out, you're more than welcome to. I'll drop the link. Sheesh. Close this down here, but it's like now they're gearing up the emergency alert test. Pretty weird that you can call it just a coincidence or whatever you want to call it, but it is pretty strange that the last time this happened, this was during the COVID pandemic and all that shit. So it does make one kind of wonder, especially seeing all the shit that's coming out now about the new variants and the push for all of that. And like speaking of that, right here, can we go from a variant of no concern to the largest vaccination rollout in the UK? The rollout of flu and COVID-19 vaccines has been brought forward to September 11th due to the emergence of what is being termed a new variant that apparently came to light on the 18th of August. At the moment, there has been little incitement of fear, yet at the beginning of the year, the UK Health Security Agency said they expected the largest vaccination program in the UK. Excuse me, guys, I apologize. The NHS officials have indicated that BA286, which came to light on the 18th of August is the most concerning since the arrival of Omicron. Yet scientists also say it has mutated but has not been classed as a variant of concern, reported Sky News. Nevertheless, they added that the vaccination efforts aimed at care home residents and those who are immunocompromised will now start on the 11th of September, 9/11, rather than the initial October date. The group will be followed by carers, pregnant women, social care personnel, and individuals aged 65 and above, all of whom will receive booster shots this upcoming winter. How about that? So they're going to do the new rollout on 9/11. Dropping the emergency alerts here in October. 9/11, they're going to start, getting everybody prepared for this crap with the boosters, and they've already got Fauci rolling out. It's like they've got it all ready to go, don't they? Gender reveal in Mexico turned deadly Saturday when a stunt plane involved in the celebration crashed in front of oblivious partygoers. And like I was talking about at the very beginning of this video, this is what gets pushed. The gender reveal shit and all of that. So of course they need artificial wombs. Nobody's going to be able to have babies before too long. Oh my gosh. These gender reveal parties, yeah. So, don't have a gender reveal party for your baby. And of course they got to demonize something like that. The U.S. returning nukes to the U.K. base reveals desperation behind NATO's standoff strategy. And I don't know if I have that article up here. But this just kind of lets you know, U.S. returning nukes to the U.K. base reveals desperation behind NATO's standoff strategy, reveals retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. The U.S. deployment of F-35s and nuclear weapons to the U.K. is being cast as a response to tensions with Russia, but it is in fact a consequence of long-established U.S. plans to revive a Cold War-era strategy of a nuclear standoff as a way to assert U.S. power. A former Pentagon analyst and U.S. Air Force commander told Sputnik. U.S. newspaper has revealed the Pentagon's plan to return U.S.-owned nuclear bombs to the United Kingdom after a 15-year absence, with $15 million set aside for new support facilities at RAF Lakenheath, north of London. The switch will parallel the replacement of aging F-16 Falcon aircraft with newer F-35 Joint Strike Fighters, stealthy jets cleared to carry B-61-12 variable yield nuclear bombs. According to a congressional budget request for next year, the funds will help build a 144-bed dormitory that will house the increase in enlisted personnel as a result of this potential surety mission. Pentagon jargon term for the handling of nuclear weapon, according to experts. And isn't that, that kind of lets you know which direction things are going, as if you couldn't tell. I mean, I feel like it's more of like a fear thing, right, to keep the masses, with their asses puckered, waiting on, nuclear war. But that's just my opinion. We'll see. I mean, that could be, part of this, but, I've never really bought into the whole nuclear war thing per se. Unless it was some other type of disaster and they tried to blame it on nuclear war, like an asteroid impact or something like that. Because of where would, the elites live if they drop nukes all over the planet? It just really don't make a whole lot of sense. Deserts turning into rivers after Burning Man mud, and now flash floods on Las Vegas Strip as major power outages leave more than 4,000 residents suffering blackouts, and flash floods sweep Las Vegas. Let's see here. And there's no sound in this video, just so you know. Oh, look at that. It's pretty fucking wild. You know, and the whole Burning Man shit, you know, like I said, that was more of the crisis shit. They sensationalized the fuck out of that, and that made the news cycle, and you can guarantee it's just to bring more attention to that ritual, you know, just like always. We're being suckered into feeding into these things on a daily basis, you know, and that's why I don't do too much of the conspiracy shit anymore. It's like I just don't want to feed into the negativity. I don't want to feed into their bullshit spells. I don't want to feed into the social engineering. It's like the only reason I even talk about this shit is so I can show people what's even really going on. And even then, you know, it's like, is it even worth it, you know? Because, you know, they just censor us and all that. It only ends up hurting us in the long run. So, dramatic footage captured in Louisiana shows an intense fire tornado swirling amid the Pirate Cove fire. Look at that. It's fucking wild. A fire tornado. And you know, it's like, I don't feel like a lot of this shit was even a thing when I was younger, but, you know, what do I know, right? What do I know? We'll move forward here, guys. Remember when the FDA tweeted to tell people, to stop taking ivermectin because you are not a horse? The FDA implausibly told a federal district court that those tweets did not contain medical advice. The court just told the FDA to stop practicing medicine. Yep, the court said FDA overstepped its authority with anti-ivermectin campaign. Never trust any government agency. And isn't that fucking interesting? You see the "you are not a horse" thing. It alerted millions of Americans via social media midway through the COVID-19 pandemic. The agency had discerned that some people were treating their symptoms using the animal version of a drug called ivermectin. FDA decided to target the practice via the horse message and others like it. And you know what? You know, that was intentional. I don't know about people using the animal version of that. They were talking about basically, you know, any version of that. So, more than 5,000 babies across the United States were abducted by a supposedly charitable organization between 1924 and 1950. The group targeted poor Southern families and developed a black market for white babies. I am not fucking surprised. This woman stole children from the poor to give to the rich. What a class act. It says babies were snatched off the streets by strangers in passing cars, or taken from daycare centers or church basements where they played, or stolen from hospitals right after birth, passed from doctor to nurse to uninformed social worker before vanishing in an instant. Some were dropped into dismal orphanages, others were sent to a new family, their identities wiped, no questions asked. Most would never see their birth parents again. While it sounds like something out of a Dickens or the Brothers Grimm, this happened in the United States in the 20th century, thousands of times. It was the dark handiwork of the Memphis branch of the Tennessee Children's Home Society, a supposedly charitable organization led by a woman named Georgia Tann. Tann was a Pied Piper without scruples. She was a mastermind behind a black market for white babies, especially blonde, blue-eyed ones, that terrorized poor Southern families for almost 3 decades. It's estimated that over 5,000 children were stolen by Tann and the society between 1924 and 1950, and that some 500 died at the society's hands as a result of poor care, disease, and it is suspected abuse. Particularly vulnerable were newborns. In 1945 alone, as many as 50 children perished in a dysentery outbreak. The precise figure, like so many terrible details about the society, is not known. Tan had various means of procuring babies and children for her wealthy customers. She bribed nurses and doctors in birthing wards who would then tell new parents that their babies had been stillborn. Her organization was quick to snatch babies born in prisons and mental wards. Older children were grabbed off the street by Tan's agents and were told their parents had died. To cover their tracks, the society falsified adoption records and destroyed any trace of these children's origins. Lisa Wingate brings these shocking crimes and their long-term emotional impact to light in her affecting new novel, Before We Were Yours. Wow. That is fucking crazy. Look at that, the picture of this. Tan's background was privileged. She was born in 1891, where her father was a district court judge. One of the responsibilities was dealing with homeless children who were wards of the state. George's elder brother, Rob Roy Tan, may have been one of those children adopted by the Tan family. That is crazy. She had designs on a career in the law, but her father deemed that profession too masculine for his only daughter. Forced to study music, she taught for a time before finding a job in the nascent field of social work. Working as a field agent for the Mississippi Children's Home Finding Society in Jackson, she may have gotten a taste for the power that she would later wield over so many families. She began placing poor children in adoptive homes without the consent of both birth parents. Child welfare laws weren't as strict as they are today, allowing Tan to wheel and deal in her role, but Tan was not careful with her work, nor with covering up her trail. At least one birth parent sued for the return of her children. It seemed Mississippi was not the right market for the baby resale business. Judge Tan had connections in Memphis, and after a brief foray in Texas, his daughter moved there to work for Tennessee Children's Home Society in 1924. Soon after, she launched her adoption racket. To drum up business, Tan placed advertisements aimed at potential adoptive parents in newspapers. One featured a photo of smiling, tow-headed infants with the caption, "Want a real, live Christmas present?" As if children were dolls or puppies. That is so fucking crazy. And I've heard this, more than just this story here. This is just kind of like the origins of something like this. But I'm sure many of you have, heard of, social workers and, the end justifies the means. That's right. Social workers and things like that, actually being involved in the abduction of children for decades. I mean, Children's Services has been caught up in this shit, quite a few times. And I feel like the last time we seen this, I think it was in Pennsylvania, where it had happened. But I mean, this is quite a bit older of a story. It just shows you how long this shit's been going on. And what's crazy is a lot of people don't believe that this, this type of shit is real. Really, they think like this could never happen, and that's kind of what's really wild about it. And how about this? This is crazy. Well, we already have congressional and presidential jobs for seniors, so might as well make it a trifecta. Oh my gosh, military jobs for seniors. Pretty weird, right? Maybe that's because 77% of young Americans are too fat, mentally ill, and on drugs to join the military. Anyone ever heard of targeted individuals? And I'm sure quite a few people that watch this channel are actually familiar with this. And if you're not, I hope you never have to be, familiar with the TI or what it's like to experience that. I myself have, personally had experience with this, and it's nothing nice. It's really crazy. But what is a targeted individual? A targeted individual, or TI, is someone that has been selected by the deep state, usually the FBI, the DHS, or the CIA, to unwillingly participate in an experimental CIA torture program. This program was developed under the CIA's MK-Ultra project and is designed to break down the individual and neutralize a person using psychological, physical, and emotional stress. The ultimate goal of this program is to control the entire population through intimidation, fear, and threats. Political activists, labor union leaders, scientists, and whistleblowers are some of the main targets of the program. However, some people are randomly chosen. And instead of looking at the technology, look at the messaging. Torture is fine so long as it stops a terrorist. The government can track you down wherever you might hide, point a gun at anyone you disagree with. The CIA's role behind the scenes in Hollywood goes deeper than what you think. And we're going to look at the targeted individual shit first. A targeted individual, and this is from targetedjustice.com. And somebody told me that this was actually a CIA site too, so I would really like to know how many people, in the chat, have actually experienced, something like this, the targeting. I would be really interested to know that. I bet it's a lot, for real. In this chat, at least, I bet it's a lot. Most terrorists are false flag terrorists or are created by our own security services. In the United States, every single terrorist incident we have had has been a false flag or has been an informant pushed on by the FBI. That's David Steele, Marine intelligence officer and former CIA officer. The CIA and FBI are behind most, if not all, terrorism. Ted Gunderson. The CIA formed ISIS. The CIA is funding ISIS through secret Swiss bank accounts. 30 FBI agents checked into the Mandalay Bay Hotel 2 days before the shooting in Las Vegas. And that was my first viral video, was back then. And you see kind of how it works. And before we get into this, let me drop this link in the chat for you guys that, if you guys are interested. Sorry, I didn't drop the FEMA link earlier. Okay, there we go. Yeah, you can't let them take your piece. I mean, honestly, it's pretty wild. But you see here the target individual program. They go through like this little diagram of kind of how it works. First, it's a standard nomination form by the FBI, the CIA, or the DHS, or government agency. And I'm not going to really talk about, my experiences with this, but I just, let's just say Department of Homeland Security and all that, are most definitely involved. The DOJ and the FBI, they're placed on a watch list as non-investigative subjects. Then we have through the Council of Foreign Relations, which directs the program. The CIA Denver provides funding and the PSYOPs for this as well. The NSA then hacks phones and electronics through the DHS and FBI at the Fusion Center, and this is where the gang stalking, the house break-ins, the chemical attacks, and the poisoning begin to take place. And this is with the intent to destroy family relations and for isolation. And me, myself, when I went through this, I've experienced every last one of these things, where things will be moved around in my home, where, I was attacked with aerosols, gang stalk, street theater. Mine went a little deeper than that, but, family relations destroyed, isolated, the whole nine. This is done through Schriever Air Force Base, United States Air Force. And you can see here the Lockheed GPS satellite tracking, the Vercator attacks, and the cell tower attacks, which is digital beamforming. And this is how they do the voice to skull, or V2K, the implants, and the remote neural monitoring. And through these cell towers, they are able to block legal help. You can't call the police or anything like that, and block medical help. FirstNet.com, AT&T. It's like rerouted, like you try to call somebody to help you in these scenarios and it's rerouted to somebody else, and it's like not the normal police that's sent there and shit like that. It's very crazy, and a lot of this is to make you look insane, to discredit you or, whatnot. It's someone that's been selected by the deep state to unwillingly participate in the experimental CIA torture program. The program was developed under the CIA's MKUltra project, designed to break down the individual and neutralize the person. using psychological, physical, and emotional stress. The ultimate goal of the program is to control the entire population through intimidation, fear, and threats. Political activists, labor union leaders, scientists, and whistleblowers are some of the main targets of the program. However, some people are randomly chosen. Family and spousal relationships are usually destroyed as part of the psychological torture, and I did experience that as well. The FBI and DHS fusion centers run the global gang stalking program, which is designed to harass, intimidate, and break down the target. The FBI outsources much of the local harassment to community groups such as InfraGard, Citizens Corps, and Neighborhood Watch. Targeted individuals are placed on the terrorist watch list and tracked as non-investigative subjects so that the local police and ambulances can be instructed not to assist with their emergency calls through FirstNet.com, which is run by AT&T. At the FBI, targeting officers or targeting coordinators identify and nominate new people to the suspected terrorist list whose only crime is being a whistleblower or a political activist. According to the Office of the Inspector General, 97% of these people have no known ties to terrorism, yet they are placed on this secret list. FBI managers are paid bonuses up to $50,000 each year to add people to the list. Recently, the FBI started claiming that Christian Catholics are domestic terrorists, and so are parents that object to child pornography in their schools. The CIA and Air Force operate the microwave weapons program through the underground complex at Schriever Air Force Base near Colorado Springs. The Vercator microwave satellite weapon and digital beamforming from cell phone towers are used. The microwave beams generally target the head and cause long-term brain damage. See the recent brain trauma of the Cuban diplomats, also caused by microwave weapons, according to Dr. Douglas Smith, MD at the University of Pennsylvania, and Dr. Beatrice Gollum, Maryland, MD, PhD at the University of California, San Diego. State Department signal experts Mark Lindsay has also confirmed the diplomats were definitely attacked with microwave weapons. Dr. David Relman led an investigation into the National Academies of Science and determined that Havana syndrome is likely caused by microwave weapons. Voice-to-skull, or V2K signals, can be embedded in the microwave frequency, which allows the government criminals to send constant, hate-filled messages at the target. It's called the Frey effect, or microwave auditory effect, after Dr. Alan Frey. There are numerous U.S. patents on these technologies, and it is likely that most of the mass shooting events are orchestrated by the CIA and FBI using the techniques developed under the CIA's MK Ultra program. And you know what? What was it? Like the Batman theater shooter? He had actually went to the FBI and said he was hearing voices and all this before, that happened. So I do believe that as well. I believe a lot of these people, these patsies, are, people that's been in this program, and they're able to influence them to do certain things. The subliminal messaging program is run by the CIA's domestic headquarters in Denver. They're targeting senators, congressmen, judges, foreign leaders, and even the president. These subliminal messages can be used to alter a person's behavior and decisions. And you can see we're breaking it down for the microwave weapons attacks on civilians. The whole nine here.
If you're submitting budget proposals for a law enforcement agency, for an intelligence agency, you're not going to submit the proposal that we won the war on terror and everything's great, because the first thing's going to happen is your budget's going to be cut in half. It's my opposite of Jesse Jackson's keep hope alive. This is keep fear alive. Keep it alive.
Keep fear alive. And that's how they get all of us. And it says the FBI admits that they only need to keep fear alive to justify their terror budget each year. InfraGard is a terrorist organization that's controlled by the FBI. They break into people's homes, they threaten, steal, perform illegal surveillance, assault and battery, continuous harassment, and even attempted murder. Targeted individuals call it gang stalking. You can see here's the overview of the individual program. How the U.S. Air Force tracks everyone. It's fucking crazy too. Like, and this is real as fuck, y'all. So if you have never looked into this, this is something I would strongly encourage you to look into. It's not any bullshit. This shit's legit, and they ruin people's lives every day with this shit. Matter of fact, I've had a number done on me from that stuff. It took me a very long time, to recover from that, and it's like, I don't know if it ever really ends, Washington, D.C.'s role behind the scenes in Hollywood goes deeper than you think. On television, we found more than 1,100 titles received Pentagon backing, 900 of them since 2005, from Flight 93 to Ice Road Truckers and Army Wives. Now think about that. They're totally controlling the media, every way, shape, form, and facet. All the movies that you're watching, right? Totally controlling and censoring the internet. And then at the same time, anybody who steps out of line or dares to speak up against it, they then put you in programs to target you and torture you electronically and track your every move and treat you like a fucking terrorist just for disagreeing with, something they do. And it's not even just that. Not only that, they're rolling out all these agendas to cull the population, to get people sick, to kill them, dumb them down. And we have somehow arrived to this point to where, people still believe that we can turn it around. Do you still believe that we can turn it around? Trust the plan, right? Trump will fix it. And there are people that really believe that. People that really genuinely believe that. That, you get the right guy in office, that all of this is just going to go away. That this war against the deep state is going on. You got somebody on your side. The U.S. government and Hollywood have always been close. D.C. has long been a source of intriguing plots for filmmakers, and L.A. has been a generous provider of glamour and glitz to the political class. But just how dependent are these two centers of American influence? Scrutiny of previously hidden documents reveals that the answer is very. We can now show that the relationship between U.S. national security and Hollywood is much deeper and more political than anyone has ever acknowledged. It's a matter of public record that the Pentagon has had an entertainment liaison officer since 1948. The Central Intelligence Agency established a similar position in 1996. And although it is known that they sometimes request script changes in exchange for advice, permission to use locations and equipment such as aircraft carriers, each appeared to have passive and largely apolitical roles. Files we obtained, mainly through the U.S. Freedom of Information Act, show that between 1911 and 2017, more than 800 feature films received support from the U.S. government's Department of Defense, a significantly higher figure than previous estimates indicate. These included blockbusters such as Transformers, Iron Man, and Terminator. Isn't that fucking crazy? Right? That is fucking crazy. Spy culture, government involvement in the entertainment industry. And it's like, yeah, I'm not going to go through all that, but just think about that too. It says on television we found more than 1,100 titles received Pentagon backing, 900 of them since 2005. And when we include episodes from long-running shows like 24, Homeland, and NCIS, as well as the influence of other major organizations like the FBI and White House, we can establish unequivocally for the first time that the national security state has supported thousands of hours of entertainment. For its part, the CIA has assisted in 60 film and television shows since its formation in 1947. It's a much lower figure than the Department of Defense, but its role has nonetheless been significant. And think about that. The Department of Defense not only passing out jabs, they're also making the movies now. So And I guess it appears they've been making the movies for a very long time, right? If you really think about it. And you're the job they're going to finish. First, I thought this was a joke slogan for Biden 2024, but no, they chose let's finish the job, and this is fucked up. Like, this is the real slogan. Let's finish the job. Like, it's right in your face. It's like whatever's left of America, whatever's left of your freedom, whatever's left of the population. Let's finish the job. What job are they finishing? If they're talking about the destruction of America, the best slogan would be mission accomplished. And just gonna leave this one alone. Mountain Dew, Maui Burst. It's like it's all, and this is like that subliminal messaging, like a lot of people don't believe in the power of sigils and symbolism, and they wonder like why I'm always talking about, the witchcraft and all of that. It's like, this is why. Excuse me. It doesn't take too much for someone to see that, a lot of this stuff is predictive programming. They put it right in your face before it ever comes to fruition. He says, what should be worrisome to all is that the fact this time around big business is bracing for an actual downturn. It's going to be a real hard bump this time around. Speculation grows that Warren Buffett is bracing for a recession as consumer confidence plummets and retailers fall in hard times. So you got Buffett bracing for the recession, and county officials have not disclosed where road closures were put up on August 8th, the night of the fire in Lahaina town. But evacuees have shared timestamped videos showing how their paths were obstructed.
By meeting with evacuees and cataloging their video, a more robust timeline comes into focus, and there are some surprises. Lahaina Luna Road, where it meets the highway, that was shut down at one point. Keawe Street and Honoapilani northbound was shut down during the height of the evacuation for over 2 hours. Downed power lines entangle these cars on Honoapilani Highway near Kapunakea, 1 block north of Lahaina Gateway. This man at 2:53 p.m. August 8th is unsure if the lines are energized and removes the power line from his SUV using a branch. Videos shot by Travis Miller shortly after he goes in and out of Safeway at 3 p.m. show northbound lanes then shut down. This video shows no cars on the blocked-off highway still, 5:24 p.m., 2.5 hours later, when Debbie Schultz-Peterson shot this video. Miller's video documented the lane closure during that time. He says police directed traffic down Keawe Street into the cannery.
And either went out the backside on the front street. I could see that everyone was blocked, so I went out and I came this way, and I got under the power line.
Though we are not crossing the barricade, we're told we cannot film here.
You go somewhere else, but you guys not allowed here.
Big cloud of black smoke past the window.
Before 4:30 p.m., Chantal Katnak is on the other side of the road closure, trying to get to the highway north from the vicinity of the bypass.
There was only one cop in that area where we were at, blocking for us to go to Keawe Street.
She and her son Keanu can't even get down to the cannery. She follows a line of cars, taking a residential back road north, leading through Waikuli. She detours to Old Stewart Road, which eventually becomes a dirt residential street. However, the bypass is right behind her, only it's closed. But there's more. Those trying to exit the middle of town from Lahaina Luna are also obstructed, heading southbound.
And it's like, seriously, how many of these different, scenarios and situations have we seen, where it's like the most suspect shit, imaginable taking place during, these tragedies. For this one in particular, it's them blocking off the roads, the sirens not going off, and, the million other things that were very, very wrong with this, And this seems to be like a common denominator whenever we look at like these events, these crisis events. And that's what gets people up in arms. That's what makes people think like this is done intentionally. And not to mention, you know, all the predictive programming with the Mountain Dew and Maui Blast and all that shit, right? Like, that's just icing on the cake, you know, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as a lot of people are concerned. You know, you think about the roads that are closed, the people, you know, the schools that were shut down. It's like the same song and dance, no matter, you know, where we go, you know, how we look at it. It's like, you know, Las Vegas and the school shootings and all that. You guys remember, it's like they had drills that day. 9/11, they had drills that day. You know, it's like the same shit over and over and over. You know, but somehow I guess that this is just, you know, people think that, you know, we just make this stuff up because we're crazy, I guess, and we have, you know, we have nothing better to do, I guess. I don't know, right? When they try to bribe people into getting vaccinated by giving away free burgers, they should have been a red flag for most people.
I live free like a bird in the sky. If you're really living, no need to ask why. What's meaning? Who needs it? People that are scared, so they project a meaning onto life out of fear. I'm rap psychoanalyst who smokes a bit of every now and then just to study what a habit is. If life is a dream, I hope that I've begun awakening. My goal ain't to settle down and give a girl a wedding ring. Nah, that's not for me. You say you want.
Yeah, and at the same time, we're still, you know, we're not even allowed to talk about these kind of things. You know, it's like, I'm never surprised, like, anytime I do a video now, like, it never fails. I get a strike if I mention the wrong thing. You know, I can't tell you how many channels I've had deleted, I've been demonetized, and it's like, just merely talking about it and bringing the shit up, you know. And let me show you this too before, and it's only about to get worse. Today the UN will publish the final draft of a bill which will remove all your rights to privacy. And this is the UN Cyber Crime Treaty negotiations entering the final phase. Time is running short to bolster human rights. The UN Cybercrime Treaty, over the past 10 days, delegates from around the world convened the United Nations headquarters in New York for 6 rounds of negotiations on the draft text of a first ever UN convention combating cybercrime. And the negotiations over the new UN Cybercrime Treaty have evolved into a diplomatic proxy war between democracies and their authoritarian rivals over competing future visions, the internet, technology, and human rights in the digital age, pitting the United States and its allies against Russia and China at the United Nations. And here it is. This is a draft text of the convention and the preamble. And like I said, it's like it's only getting worse. And we'll read some of this. The state parties present convention, bearing in mind the purposes and principles of the Charter of the United Nations, noting the information and communications technologies, while having enormous potential for the development of societies, create new opportunities for perpetrators, may contribute to the increase in the rate of diversity in criminal activities, and may have an adverse impact on states, enterprises, and the well-being of individuals and society as a whole. Concerned that the use of a computer system, an information and communications technology device, can have considerable impact on the scale, speed, and scope of criminal offenses, including offenses related to terrorism, trafficking in persons, smuggling of migrants, illicit manufacturing of and trafficking in firearms, their parts, components, and ammunition, drug trafficking, and trafficking in cultural property. convinced the need to pursue as a matter of priority a common criminal policy aimed at the protection of society against cybercrime, the use of information and communications technologies for criminal purposes by, inter alia, adopting appropriate legislation establishing common offenses and procedural powers, and fostering international cooperation to prevent and combat such activities more effectively at the national, regional, and international levels, determined to deny safe havens to those who engage in cybercrime, the use of information and communications technologies for criminal purposes by prosecuting these crimes wherever they occur, stressing the need to enhance coordination and cooperation among states, including providing technical assistance and capacity building to countries, in particular developing countries, upon their request, to improve national legislation and frameworks to enhance the capacity of national authorities to deal with cybercrime, the use of information and communications technologies for criminal purposes in all its forms, including the prevention, detection, investigation, and prosecution, emphasizing this context and role the United Nations play. And it goes on here. And you can see strengthen the measures to prevent the combat. It's got all the countries listed here. And just imagine, like when we were looking at this, the targeted individual stuff, what they're actually, trying to do with this cybercrime shit. And you not have the ability to get help anywhere else once they have deemed you a cyber criminal. They can tee off on you in the same fucking way that's happening here in the United States to innocent people every day. Remember, 97% of the people that have been targeted have no affiliations with any terrorist of any way, shape, form, and facet. These are just people that disagree with policy, people that voice their opinion, or dissatisfaction with the government in general, or political parties in general. And these people are having their entire fucking lives ruined, and now they're trying to make this not just like a national fucking thing. This is, this is international. International. Through the UN. And you can see, like, everything is pushing more and more in this direction. U.S. military plans to unleash thousands of autonomous war robots over the next 2 years. It's like, I don't know how many different things when it comes to fucking robots and all of this that I've shown today, from artificial wombs to robots to attacking of cybercrime, to let you know, like, the Aquarian Age is no fucking joke. It's no joke. And as we all shift into, a more technological age, you better fucking believe the powers that be are using this to their advantage, and they're using it to oppress and control the people. They're using this to stifle out freedom, and to smother out any attempt to get out from under this totalitarian one world system that we're all being oppressed by currently, and is going to continue to tighten its grip around the throats of all of us, until they have accomplished their agenda of culling and the depopulation of the masses. So, it is getting a little late, so I'm going to wrap this one up, guys. I didn't want to, do too long. I will be coming back probably either tomorrow or the next day with, a little bit longer, more video. And I'll be finishing up the tarot readings and all of that as well. So make sure you guys are checking out the daily 3-minute reads. Check out, the 12 signs as well for the tarot readings. And yeah, it's definitely time to put our differences aside. Like, it really is. It really is, for real. Like, we gotta stop. And it's like, and here's the worst part, like, it feels really discouraging. I do this stuff, and it's like, we can't even get people to support any movement like this whatsoever. People are too afraid, or, too busted, too broke. It's like crazy. Got the Cash App. I did not. I don't know if you just sent it. I'll check after the video, but if so, I appreciate that. Anybody who donates and supports, I appreciate it. I just want you all to know, like, I can't tell you how grateful I am for all that you guys do. Everybody that, take the time, hit the like, share the link. It helps me get it out there. And if you can, donate, support. it does help me tremendously, not just to live and stuff, but to continue to do this. So you can join us on Patreon, exclusive content, book a personal tarot reading. Information's down below, and check out all the other content. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you next time. You'll have a good one. Peace.